The most terrifying punishments during the Congo Free State. The Congo Free State, also known as the Congo Independent State, was a large Central African state that existed from 1885 to 1908. It was privately controlled by Belgium's King Leopold II, who founded the state ostensibly as a humanitarian and philanthropic project. The Congo Free State, on the other hand, quickly gained a reputation for extreme brutality and exploitation of the local population by colonial administrators and the Force Publique, a colonial military force. Numerous human rights violations and atrocities were committed against the Congolese people during the Congo Free State's existence. These are some of the most heinous punishments inflicted on the people of the Congo Free State. Amputation. Amputation was one of the most terrifying and gruesome forms of punishment inflicted on the Congolese during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The Congo Free State, ruled by King Leopold II of Belgium, was different from your typical colony. It was instead a private enterprise run solely by the king, with the primary goal of extracting wealth from the region, particularly in the form of rubber. The Congo Free State's rubber industry heavily relied on exploiting the local population, who were coerced into collecting wild rubber from dense rainforests. To meet Europe's and the United States' insatiable demand for rubber, colonial agents imposed harsh, often unrealistic quotas on rubber collection. Failure to meet these quotas had dire consequences, and amputation was one of the most heinous forms of punishment used to terrorize and control the Congolese people. A colonial military force tasked with enforcing the king's will performed the amputation. The victim's hands and feet were frequently amputated, and the severed limbs were sometimes collected and presented to colonial authorities as proof of punishment. Whipping. Next up, we have whipping. Whipping was a form of punishment that exemplified the cruelty and inhumanity of the Congo Free State during King Leopold II of Belgium's private rule. It was a time when the Congolese people were subjected to a system of exploitation and terror aimed at extracting the greatest profit possible from the land's abundant natural resources, particularly rubber. Whipping, a practice that instilled fear and caused immense suffering, was one of the tools used by the colonial agents and the Force Publique to enforce compliance with rubber quotas and maintain control over the indigenous people. The chicote, a type of whip used in the Congo Free State, was central to the brutality of whipping. The chicote was made from strips of sun-dried hippopotamus hide, braided together to form a vicious and formidable weapon. The chicote's design allowed it to easily rip through skin and flesh, leaving deep and painful lacerations on those who were subjected to its lash. The chicote's use was widespread and systematic, and used for both punishment and coercion. Whippings were given for various perceived offenses, including failing to meet rubber collection quotas and demonstrating any form of resistance or defiance to colonial authority. Individuals were sometimes whipped as a form of collective punishment, while entire communities were subjected to the torment of the chicote to quell dissent and maintain dominance. Hostage-taking. You might have seen this in many movies. Hostage-taking was a harrowing tactic used by colonial authorities and the Force Publique in the Congo Free State to coerce the local population into complying with colonial regime demands, particularly regarding rubber collection. The Congo Free State was transformed into a ruthless profit-making enterprise under the private rule of King Leopold II of Belgium, where the extraction of natural resources, primarily rubber, took precedence over the well-being and dignity of the indigenous people. The Congo Free State's rubber collection was based on forced labor, and colonial agents imposed harsh and often unrealistic quotas on the Congolese population. Failure to meet these quotas resulted in severe consequences, one of the most upsetting of which was the kidnapping of hostages. Hostage-taking was used to put pressure on individuals and communities to deliver the required amounts of rubber and punish any acts of disobedience or resistance. Hostage-taking was indiscriminate and cruel in practice. Colonial agents and members of the Force Publique would kidnap and imprison rubber collectors' families, including women, children, and the elderly, until the quotas were met. Forced labor. Coming up next, we have forced labor. Forced labor was a central and deeply oppressive aspect of the Congo Free State's exploitation system, which was established under King Leopold II of Belgium's private rule. King Leopold II portrayed the Congo Free State, established in 1885, as a philanthropic and humanitarian endeavor to bring civilization and progress to the people of Central Africa. The reality, however, was quite different, as the primary goal of the Congo Free State was to extract wealth from the land, particularly in the form of rubber, a commodity in high demand at the time. The Congo Free State's rubber industry relied heavily on forced labor from the indigenous Congolese population. Colonial agents imposed strict rubber collection quotas on local communities in collaboration with the Force Publique, a colonial military force. Failure to meet these quotas resulted in harsh punishments such as violence, mutilation, and hostage-taking. These coercive tactics effectively compelled the Congolese people to participate in a system of forced labor, where they had no choice but to perform the arduous and dangerous work of rubber collection. Starvation. Starvation has always been a part of oppression. Starvation was a horrifying and widespread result of King Leopold II of Belgium's exploitive and oppressive regime in the Congo Free State. The forced labor system, which was primarily focused on rubber extraction, disrupted traditional ways of life and agriculture, resulting in widespread hunger and malnutrition among the indigenous Congolese population. The imposition of rubber collection quotas on local communities was one of the Congo Free State's central policies. Men were sent into the rainforest to gather rubber, which was physically demanding and time-consuming. As a result, they were frequently unable to tend their fields or engage in subsistence farming, which had traditionally been their families' and communities' primary food source. The Force Publique, the state's military force, and colonial authorities' coercive tactics exacerbated the problem of food insecurity. Villagers who did not meet their rubber quotas were subjected to harsh punishments, such as the burning and pillaging of their villages and food stores. As a means of exerting control and ensuring compliance with the rubber collection regime, colonial agents and soldiers frequently confiscated crops, livestock, and food supplies. Burning of villages. Village burning was one of the most devastating and terrorizing tactics used by colonial authorities and the Force Publique in the Congo Free State, which was ruled privately by King Leopold II of Belgium. The heinous policy was implemented to punish, coerce, and control the indigenous Congolese population, whose lives were upended by the colonial regime's exploitive demands, particularly for rubber extraction. Under King Leopold II's system, colonial agents imposed stringent rubber collection quotas on local communities. The Congolese people were coerced into forced labor to meet the quotas, with severe penalties for non-compliance. One such consequence was the burning of villages, which occurred with alarming frequency and brutality. When a village failed to meet its rubber quota, or if there were any perceived act of resistance or disobedience, colonial agents and Force Publique soldiers would descend on the village, often without warning. They would then set fire to homes, granaries, and other structures, leaving the village in ruins. The theft of food supplies frequently accompanied this devastation. Livestock slaughter and personal belongings confiscation. Sexual violence. Sexual violence was a pervasive and heinous aspect of the colonial atrocities committed in the Congo Free State, which was ruled privately by King Leopold II of Belgium. The Congo Free State was characterized during this period by a system of exploitation and oppression, with the primary goal of extracting wealth from the land, particularly in the form of rubber. To meet the demands of the colonial regime, the indigenous Congolese people was subjected to forced labor, coercion, and brutality. Sexual abuse and exploitation were inflicted on Congolese women and girls in this context of systemic violence, causing profound suffering and long-term trauma. Rape, sexual assault, and sexual enslavement were all forms of sexual violence in the Congo Free State. Colonial agents, members of the Force Publique, and other colonial regime associates frequently committed these atrocities with impunity. Congolese women and girls were targeted individually and collectively against communities that failed to meet rubber quotas or were perceived to resist colonial authority. Executions. Executions were a common and brutal punishment inflicted on the indigenous Congolese population in the Congo Free State, ruled privately by King Leopold II of Belgium. During this time, the Congo Free State was characterized by an exploitation and terror system motivated by a desire to extract wealth from the region's natural resources, particularly rubber. The forced labor regime and the insatiable demand for rubber were enforced with various violent and coercive measures, including summary executions. In the Congo Free State, executions were frequently carried out by the Force Publique, a colonial military force that served as the state's enforcer. The Force Publique comprised African soldiers who were often recruited or conscripted from other parts of the continent, and European officers led it. Colonial agents and Force Publique officers wielded vast and unchecked powers, allowing them to carry out executions with impunity. Thank you for stopping by to watch. Please subscribe to the channel and post your video recommendations in the comments area if you want us to do more films like this.